We are going to kick off now with the Accessibility Meetup for July. It's a very hot July. I hope everyone's managing to stay cool in their offices and home offices and basements and attics. Hopefully you're not in an attic. Maybe you've done what Steph's done and then gone to the garden, which seems very sensible. I am in a booth in Finsbury Park, ironically titled The TARDIS, because it is tiny and it's absolutely roasting. So I'm going to go like increasing shade of beetroot, I suspect, about this hour. And we've got Graham Booth from Sheffield City Council, who's going to share his approach to training service teams on accessibility, with a particular microsites angle, because that's where Graham
Well,
is.
Akeem's here as well, actually. So we'll be the two of us.
We've been covering different angles. Okay,
Yeah.
great. And I'll hand over to Graham to do our
Okay.
checking.
I did. So I've got slides to share with just an intro on it first, or do you want me to do
Go for it.
again?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Um, Now I'm gonna have the old thing up where when I is that shared properly the
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
Yeah, I
slide?
can see it. I can see it.
Great. Okay. So yes, this is the topic for today's presentation is accessibility training for content editors. We're going to touch a little bit on some of the checks that we do as well. Having spoken to Aaron the other day, we thought that might be useful. That's what we're going to cover today. So we have got a little icebreaker at the beginning, which is why you've been asked to bring things along. We're going to tell you about our sites and how we check them for accessibility, and then we'll talk about the challenges and how we get people on board. And then we've got another interactive bit as well, a quiz towards the end, and I'll share some useful links with you. Um, so just to introduce us, this is me. I'm Graham Booth, Information Team Specialist in the Digital Services team. Um, we are we all have this job title or derivatives of that. Very boring. But on my first day, I was sat down and told, your job title says specialist, but actually more of a generalist. And I end up looking after quite a lot of different things. So microsites have been the main thing that I've been known for in the council and in this community. And I help design and build those, and I do the support and training on them. But then I do lots of other little bits as well around design, testing, user experience, and accessibility. Um, and Akeem can say hello as well.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Akeem, information systems specialist, just like Graham, even though I do slightly different things. So, main responsibility is looking after the Sheffield.co.uk website, which is the public Sheffield City Council website, as well as our intranet, which is internal. Help look after the content team and manage workloads for that team as well. Do a lot of training and support. This is where I train people up train them how to use Drupal, make updates on our style guide and all this stuff, and project work as well, and also incorporating feedback from the public when they comment on our site anonymously or get in touch with departments that they have been in touch with for whatever reason, and then it turns out they need to make a change as well, which is very important stuff. Yeah. All right, should we move
Thanks,
on, Graham?
Akeem. So,
Myself. I am in the office, by the way, so there might be some voices, so I'll mute myself every now and then.
um, here's our little icebreaker, and this is based on an exercise that we've done in training before. Um, so we thought it'd be good to show this as an icebreaker in the event. What we're asking you to do is either, and we usually do these one by one if we're doing it in person, but we're online and it's push for time. So if you've got coins in a cup, we want you to put the coins in the cup one by one. If you've got the paper and scissors, we want you to just cut the piece of paper in half using the scissors. Shall I stop sharing while people do that?
So it's the idea you've got to wear the oven gloves while you're putting the coin in the cup.
Not yet.
Oh,
You're doing it without. You're just putting the coins in the cup one by one. Normally, I see if I was doing it in person, I'd hide the oven gloves and the spoon. They wouldn't be shown just yet.
I'm demonstrating cutting paper. Excellent.
And then we say, oh, how did people find that? What were your experiences with that exercise?
How easy was it on a scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah, that kind of thing.
I found it easy.
You found it easy, good. That's what we want to hear.
I was cutting paper. It was easy.
Yeah. So now, let me share again. I mean, you know what's coming next. Now, put the coins in the cup one by one whilst wearing the oven gloves, or cut the piece of paper in half using the spoon.
I'm glad I chose oven gloves.
Oh wow, we're
Me,
getting like a full view of Finn doing this. This is great.
I've moved my water away from my electrical equipment.
I used the handle of the spoon.
Simon did that. Simon Cutting was very impressive.
That's quite impressive, isn't it?
Yeah.
Finn's pretty good at this. Look.
And that wasn't a very sharp spoon handle either.
Those look like quite fancy ovens. They're not like huge mitts. They look like they've got grippy.
I'm surprised anyone's actually got coins. Forgotten what they look like.
Brilliant. So how did you find that?
Quite hot, sweaty, mildly awkward. Sometimes you're picking up 2 coins. Sometimes you haven't got a coin.
What about anyone who was doing the paper and spoon?
Yeah, I mean, I found it okay because I used the handle of the spoon, but you can see that it's not a very good job compared to
Yeah.
the scissors.
Yeah.
I've got a little finding to share. So these €2 coins were quite easy. My tiny 20-cent coins were completely impossible with the oven gloves.
Ah, because you got the raised edge.
So
The
already,
thicker edge.
yeah. So already you can see how the size of a coin might make it more difficult to use.
Yeah, I like that. I've not thought of that angle actually. I might include that bit. Because that is relevant, isn't it, to like the sort of the way we adapt things for accessibility. But the point of the exercise is that, you know, you were generally able to do the task very easily until we put a barrier in place. And as soon as we put a barrier in place, you can still do it, but it takes longer. It's frustrating. You've got to find a new way to do it. It's clunky. It's hot and sweaty in some cases. As Tony pointed out, some bits are easier than others, so that's worth noting as well, I think. And so the point of the exercise is basically that we've created those barriers in the same way that bad design might create a barrier for someone who has who needs assistive technologies or has different ways of using the web. Our apprentices actually developed those activities. I'm not sure if either of them are on the call, but thank you to Libby and Eleanor if you are. They developed them to use with for a session they were doing with primary schools, and we thought if you can teach primary school kids about web accessibility, you can teach council employees about web accessibility as well. Follow on from that would can everyone am I screen sharing again?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. And then I follow that on with kind of like painting a picture of why this is important and saying, can anyone spot something that might be a barrier in this picture for someone who wanted to go to this restaurant? Don't know if anyone
The
can see something.
stairs.
The stairs, yeah. Which is going to be a barrier for someone who can't use stairs or if they're in a wheelchair or something. So what they would do is they would go along to this next restaurant, which has a ramp, and they can enter there easily. It's not ideal for them. They might have really wanted to go to this restaurant on the left and they'll be disappointed that they can't, but at least they've managed to find somewhere to eat. But when you talk about this in relation to council websites, if they're a resident of Sheffield and they've got a problem that they need to resolve online in Sheffield, it's not like and they can't access our website to do that. They can't access our services. It's not like they can go and get that problem solved by one of our neighbouring councils. So it becomes a much bigger issue. That's the icebreaker over. And as I say, that's something that we actually do use when we're doing training with people as a bit of an icebreaker in the training that we do. So I'll bring Akeem in now to talk about our website. Are you there?
Yeah. I'm here.
Yeah.
Do you want me to be? Are you all right to bring up the points, Graham?
Yeah,
Do you want me to
I'll have to do the bullets when I so there you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've recently had a full redesign of our public site. You can just see a screenshot of the homepage over there. There was a lot of user experience behind that. And I mean, there are some bits, I don't want to say that that's sort of negligible, such as the icons, as they won't really get in the way of accessibility, but there was discussion around them too. But for the most part, the homepage is sort of as accessible as it gets, and it is constantly developing, it is constantly changing. Like if you see at the top, there's 3 sections: my account, jobs, and news. News was actually recently added, and that was just some feedback from the comms crew and other people who thought it'd be quite good to have a section of the news at the top of the page, because before then it was just at the bottom. So there's small changes we can make to make the homepage more effective. That might not necessarily relate to accessibility, but that's just something we've done as a response to kind of external, suggestions and whatnot. And this full redesign covers every single page in the public site. So it's not just the home page. Every single page you land on through here will have redesign. Yeah, obviously the public site is primarily an information site, like all council sites are. At the moment, it's 1,267 pages. That will fluctuate because pages are always being deleted, new pages are always being made. That local quadruple point has just popped up. These aren't appearing in a consistent order, but yes, obviously the site runs on them.
Someone's been messing with the animations, haven't they?
But obviously, I think everyone knows that the site runs on the what you call it, Drupal content management system, of course. Otherwise, it wouldn't be in this OGD accessibility meetup. Otherwise, what else we got? 98% accessibility rating from Silk Tide. Shall I respond to Nova's comment now, or are you picking it up later? I'll come back to that actually. So with the accessibility rating from Silk Tide, if anybody knows anything about Silk Tide, it fluctuates, unbelievably. I mean, a drop in the water can just change a percentage, but I mean, we sort of sit around that kind of region, and I think which is good, but anything can kind of affect your position on there. 99.3% score for WCAG level AA, which is Graham will tell you that's fantastic. Up to 7,000 active users a day across the site. And is there any more points on this slide, Graham? Or is that
No, that's it now.
All right. Am I right to just quickly check some of the comments people have left, or is there any direction about how we address that? Should we just wait to the end to go through them, or can I have a quick look at them now?
I think Aaron and Finn usually look at the comments.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'll
all right.
read anything from the chat that's more relevant right now.
Okay, all right.
We also have 14 live microsites with a new one, a 15th that's hopefully going live tomorrow. And they have devolved authorship. Don't know what's gone on with these bullets. They worked last week when I did this presentation. Maybe I'll blame Zoom. It's because we're on Zoom. We've got an intranet for 8,500 staff. And we've got a lot of services using external partners for sites as well, where we've not been able to build them for them. So obviously those sites are subject to the same accessibility requirements if they've been commissioned by us as well as if they've been created by us. So that's what me and Akeem are sort of dealing with in terms of accessibility and trying to get people trained up in that. I think the key difference between mine and Akeem's role when we're training is that I'm usually training people on the microsites. They are not content editors professionally. They are people in the services. Some of them have a bit of comms background, but on the whole, they're sort of frontline facing or professional staff. And the website is just something that's done on the side. They find the whole idea of using a CMS quite daunting. They will quite openly admit that they don't get any of the sort of technical stuff or know any of the terms that we might use. We have to be careful around that sort of stuff. And then, whereas with Akeem, you tend to be training more sort of comms professionals, don't you?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. But I mean, half the time, the other half will be a similar situation to you, Graham, where we have people who are in HR, for example, or working with trees and just all these different sections who might not have much experience using the content management systems. So similar to Graham, you have to, train them up from scratch. But the only thing is, when I'm dealing with people who haven't got much experience with content and whatnot, they're typically locked into a particular kind of page or a very small section. While we've got some of the people that Graham trains, they're obviously looking after a whole microsite. So they have slight more responsibility than the people I'll be dealing with who aren't sort of content trained. They might be looking at a couple pages. So they might not use as many of the tools that Drupal has. Yeah.
Just wanted to touch quickly on some of the things we do for testing. Just because after speaking to Aaron yesterday, we thought that might be useful. And when I was at the contribution day at the LGD camp a few weeks ago, I was showing some of the tools we use, and some people hadn't seen them before. So just thought I'd list them here, and I've got some links to share at the end. But I think most of us will know Sally or Editorially, which are in Editorial, I think, is in the main version of Drupal, and Sally was in microsites, but that's moving to Editorially as well. So obviously that's the one that the content editors are looking at because that's what they've got access to when they're creating content. And that we find that pretty good actually. It does flag a lot of things. My favorite one though, outside of that, is Silktide, which is a free one that you can get as a browser extension in Chrome, where you can do all sorts of things. I was going to show it in action, but I don't know if there's going to be time, so I might leave that till the end and we can come back to that if there is. But one of the things I like about Silktide is that you can put filters on to show things like how the site will look for someone with color blindness, or for someone with dyslexia, or for someone with an eye condition. And that can help sort of paint the picture of how what the experience of using the internet is like for people who do have those limitations, and that can be quite powerful in training. And then there's Wave, Axe, DevTools, and Lighthouse, which I think are a bit more. I find them a bit more clunky. I think it's because they're a bit more technical, and I think Axe and Lighthouse they're only available in the developer console, and I think they very much are aimed more at developers than people like me and Akeem. But I think the key thing for me with those automated tests is that there's 5 different tools that we're using, and sometimes they pick up different things. Sometimes you get false positives. So it's worth checking things more than once. It's worth different people checking things because different people will get different errors. And then the final one is the Microsoft Accessibility Checker for documents. We find that's really good if someone really wants their PDF on there, they can check the PowerPoint or Word document in that, and it's really helpful in sort of making it helping them make those changes to get it in a state that's fit to put on the website. For manual and assisted testing, this is what in the training I tend to tell content editors to look out for. But we do know that we're lucky with, well, not lucky because it's by design, but with local gov Drupal where a lot of these things kind of are being taken care of. And that's one of the things I say in the training is like that you don't need to worry about the technical stuff so much. That's being taken care of. That local gov Drupal is doing the heavy lifting, but that doesn't mean that there aren't things that you got to keep an eye out for. And I think in particular for me, it's stuff like for Akeem, it'll be the content clarity because that's Akeem's side of things, content, so making sure things are written in plain English and to a suitable reading level. And for me, it's stuff like the page structure and the headings and the screen navigation and things like that, making sure everything's set up right on the page. Challenges. Should I just bring all these up, Akeem, and you whiz through them?
Yeah. Please do.
I don't know. We are.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
Love the icon of that man trying to lift that boulder all the way. Brilliant. That's a fantastic picture. Yes, like I've said before, there are over 1,200 pages on our main website. Again, that fluctuates, and obviously that's a challenge. But we try, and it's just worth me mentioning here that we try and focus every page we want to be accurate and to be up to date. But of course, the most visited pages, the most used pages, the most important pages that you want, they're the ones we try and constantly keep track of. Other pages, which might get 20 visitors in maybe 3 months or whatnot. Those are pages we'll just come to kind of as and when, whether the department wants us to update something, or if we spot something during our audit. In fact, I've not mentioned that, but one thing we are doing as the content team to try and help resolve some of these challenges is that we're actually doing an entire audit of the entire public sites where we're just going through every single page, make sure information is relatively up to date, and just sorting out any small issues to do with headings, broken links, missing documents, stuff like that. I mean, we've got a little checklist that we work through while we're checking each page, and that's good because we are looking at pages that might not get many visitors, but there is important information on there. But for whatever reason, those pages may have not been updated for, in some cases, years. They need to be. So that's, I think that's something we're gonna continue doing in the future, even when we have given each page a once over. Devolved authorship on microsites and parts of the main site, as well as the internet, is always a challenge. I'd like Graham touched on some members of teams, they've got a lot more going on than just updating a web page. I mean, 90% of their role might be to do with outside work or just something entirely different, and the 5% or maybe even 3% of their time might actually be dealing with the website. So we can spend a lot of time training them, and it might only take so much information, and it could be months or weeks before they actually come back and update a website or a web page or apply some of the knowledge that we've given them in training. So to sort of to deal with that, what I'm quite strict on is that for the first few changes that someone makes after we've trained them, this is regardless of how skilled they are with content, or if they view something like WordPress or Drupal or anything like that, the first few changes they make, they have to let someone within the content team know, so we can just have a look at it and just see if they've employed, the style guide correctly, if they've made any errors or anything like that. So it's almost like minor policing, and we tell them this in the training, early on. We try and stress this, but still, you will have people who they get access, they've not used Drupal for ages since the training, and they make an update. They've done something wrong, they've not told you, and then we come across it ourselves, and then we have to chase it up. And it's an ongoing thing. I mean, it's an ongoing thing. I could probably make a separate presentation just on that. Low budget and capacity. I think this is a challenge for everyone on planet Earth, really. But as far as Sheffield's concerned, though, I think the content team that we have, I think we've actually grown. Not think so. We have, we've got at least 2 new full-time members of staff who not only focus on content, but they contribute quite a lot. So I think we are, for as long as I've been, I think we're in the best position we've ever been in, which is why we can do things like the audit. It'll be great to have a team of 100 people, but it's made things a lot more possible, and it's made things quite a bit easier. And there's quite a few tasks that I've wanted to do since I've started working for Sheffield City Council that we can actually do now after almost 4 years. So that's amazing.
It's also things like we haven't got, if we find it hard to do big user research projects because we won't have a budget to incentivize people for that, that might not even be appropriate given that we're a local authority. And also we haven't got premium licenses for things like Silktide. We're using the free versions.
And I think there are a couple of things that we'd like to have that might actually cost, in fact. But I think there'll be eventual workarounds. But I think that's always a challenge, and I don't think there's a council. Well, maybe there is, but I don't think there's a council where budget and capacity, isn't a challenge. So, but I think all of us just work, within the limitations of that. Staff attitudes and preconceptions. So for team members outside of, digital services, where me and Graham are, that kind of relates to devolved authorship slightly, but I think this comes sort of before that. Attitude staff might have around the website, around updates. I mean, there is often this kind of notion that departments feel they know what's best for users without actually asking users. And so in training, in meetings, we try and, I think from the jump, we try and get them to think about the person who's visiting the website on their mobile phone. There's all things going on, and we're trying to make life easier, for them. Because even if someone is working within the council, when they finish work on the weekend and they're, just doing day-to-day things, they visit websites and use them the same way that other members of the public will use the Sheffield City Council website. So we try and put them in that position. And I think it's always, and I think that always helps change maybe some attitudes or some resistance people might have, some of the changes we might want to make, or some of the ideas we have, or some of the reasons why we have a style guide, or why we want particular things done. So we always try, and Graham will say this as well, we always try and have a reason as to why we're wanting people to follow accessibility standards or style guide standards. It's never just because we're being pedantic or we're being sticklers or anything like that. There's always a purpose, behind it. Contributors aren't experts, which is that's why we're connected, with departments and with people who are knowledgeable about particular pages, because someone has the ability to update a page, the content needs to be accurate. And coming back to training, often what you'll find is that when the people who end up being the ones to update the site, they might not know all of the information around that particular section, so they often have to refer to a manager or someone higher up before even they can make a change. So It's important to keep that in mind. PDFs are, do I have to go into the challenges about PDFs? I mean,
I think everyone has those.
I just want rid of all of them, and we all do. I won't even get into that too much, but most of the time they're not accessible. There's broken links, there's a whole host of issues with them. Technical limitations. Again, I think this is I don't say an endless challenge, but I think it's something like that that's always going to be there, and we try and work around with that. I mean, is there any comment you want to add to technical limitations, Graham? I just think it's just an ongoing.
I mean, I just mean that like my approach to the accessibility is very much kind of like the front end, how it looks, and the simple things that content editors can do. When it comes down to like the really technical stuff behind it, I'm not an expert on that. We have got developers on the team who do know more, but yeah, I think that's a challenge for me personally, more than anything else.
Firewalls and permissions, is that more for internal?
Yeah, just the fact that a lot of the tools we want to use are blocked. It's quite hard to get. We've had to work hard to try and get those things installed and be able to use them. So yeah, I'll talk about.
Sorry about that.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Just before you go on, just Elizabeth was asking if you can expand on the challenges with PDFs. What specifically?
The main issue is that they're not accessible. That's the main issue with PDFs. I mean, they often, if there are links in the PDF and those whatever page they're linking to changes, then that link in the PDF, it should be updated. But people often don't go back. So whoever's uploaded that PDF often don't go back and check all the links within that PDF, for example, are up to date. So you end up having, several PDFs on a website or on a page where information that they're linking you to is no longer working because they've not been updated. And often people don't download them. They don't read the information in them. Most people come to a page looking for the information they want from the actual web page. I mean, I used the internet recently just while I was looking for some information around a member of staff, and I ended up messaging somebody who I knew who helped update that. Who helped provide information to update that web page, saying to her, "I can't find where this is," and she goes, "Oh, well, it's actually in the PDF on page 15." And I was thinking, I'm not going to read through 25 pages for a bullet point relating to something on that page. It's just you're just not going to do that. So it's as well as the accessibility side of it. A lot of the time there's an overwhelming amount of information in them, and if someone's just jumping on a web page to find out a piece of info, if they then have to go through a document that's 32 pages to find actually what they need. I mean, it's just not reasonable, is it? But I mean, Graham could even give you some more.
We've got the publications module installed, but not using it properly yet. I think we're just trying to iron some bits out in that, so hopefully that will have a big impact.
That will help,
on that.
Especially for larger documents. I think there's a project I'm working on now with my colleague, actually, Thomas Wingfield, where we're planning to really incorporate that to make things a bit just a lot easier. I mean, I always say to I always say to people, when was the last time you downloaded a PDF from the website and read through it? And often, you just get to silence. But sometimes they'll have images in there that don't have any, old text, or the images aren't accessible. They'll have infographics within the PDF, which also isn't accessible. What else is there, Graham? Can we say about PDFs? Obviously, the size of them. I keep getting distracted by these chats, by the way, so apologies if I keep stopping.
Sorry, it is a bit distracting.
And they often go out of date. That's the big thing about PDFs, is that people forget to update them. So we've got PDFs on the site dating back to 2006. That department simply just completely forgotten about. And when you've got 1,200 plus pages, with the size of our content team, we can't possibly review every single PDF again and again to make sure they're up to date. And sometimes it is up to the department to make sure they're up to date, or a member of the public will leave a comment on the site saying this PDF's out of date, or the link to it isn't working, or Shall I come back to that after some more questions? Because I think we could go on and on about it.
So I think the next bit's the bit that probably is most important, isn't it? About kind of like what we're doing in the training. So yeah, I repurposed these slides from an event I did that was more aimed at the private sector. That's why a couple of the bullets are sort of stayed in, that maybe things obvious to you, like the fact we use Drupal, and like this next one as well, that training and support is important because we all know that's why we're here. But that's like the main way. We make sure that no one is allowed access to the microsite or public site or the intranet to make edits until they've had training from me or Akeem, and then they're allowed. And then we also support them. So we'll have a early life support for them where we'll answer any questions over the first few weeks. We stopped putting a time limit on that because we realize that everyone's different in the amount of time they need. And like Akeem said, sometimes we often set these sites up, get people trained, and they're so busy that then the first edit they come to make on it is 2 months later and they've forgotten their login. So we keep that period of early life support open and say, can you check things with us before you publish them so that we can just make sure they're all right. When they do come to us and ask for support, I think one thing that I learned very quickly is that you need to offer solutions, not just problems. People are often very proud of their work that they've done. It's quite hard, especially when it comes to content, we've found it's quite hard to admit that you're struggling with content. I think people are very open to like saying, oh, I don't understand how a CMS works. I don't understand what this component is. I don't understand this technical language. But they all think that they can write really well, and and they all, but they found it difficult to kind of be more objective about it and make it more accessible language. So it doesn't work if we're just kind of like, oh, that's no good. We've got to sort of help them and find them the solutions to make that better. A bit like being a teacher, two positives and one thing you could do better. That's why I often try and think of when I'm talking to people about this sort of stuff. And giving reasons as well, not just saying, no, you can't do that. You've got to say to people like the PDFs thing, people are like, why can't I put a PDF on? And Keem's just talked for like quite a while about why they're no good. But we've got to say to people, it's like, well, when you look at it on your phone, it's not going to work properly. And it's not responsive. Users can't change the contrast or the fonts and things like that. Give the people those reasons why they've got to be following those rules. Show it not working. This was something I wanted to show as well. I think Aaron was keen for me to show, but we'll probably have to come back to, but actually show them some bad websites as well, including one of my favorite ones where like all the information is in image and I get that website to load without the images loading. So the website, in fact, I can quickly show that one probably. So this web page here, and I feel bad every time I do it because this is for my local school organizes this festival where my children go. Seats Festival, but all their information there is in this poster. And I like to run this site through a screen reader, and the screen reader will just read
I
out
have to refresh the page, Graham. We're just getting broken and see.
Yeah, that's the point.
But I remember the last time you went on, that there was actually images.
Oh yeah, no, but then I do let them load, but I don't.
Okay.
So then the screen reader just reads out like screenshot 202.606.04. But actually, like, when's the festival on? What's there? I can't tell. But if I load the image, it's that one. Maybe if I do it in Edge. No, Edge isn't liking it. But when it loads up, anyway, you get all the information about the festival there. But obviously, someone if the images haven't loaded for someone, or if they can't see them because they're reliant on a screen reader or whatever, then they're missing that information. And that was really good when I used that in the last training session I did. I showed that to someone. And they were like, "Oh my God, we do this all the time. We're really guilty of this. We just want to put our flyers up on the website. Are you telling me that loads of people won't be able to see this?" And we're like, "Yes, that's exactly what we're telling you." And it really kind of hit home for people, I think, seeing like how bad it is if you've got all your information in image and it's not loading up. I've got some other websites I can show at the end as well if there's time where it's not working. Compare it to the physical world. So I think that hits home for a lot of people because everyone will know people who've got kind of they might have older relatives and things who use a wheelchair or use a walking stick, and like that analogy at the start about the steps. I think stuff like that can really help paint the picture for people. Don't overwhelm them. Like I said, a lot of the people we're working with, they're very daunted by the technical stuff, and it's really important to sort of remember that and try and make it easy for them. Using plain English, which kind of relates to that. WCAG is very dry, isn't it? And like when you're talking to people about like focus states or something like an area tags and things like that, they're not going to understand what you mean. I mean, I don't understand a lot of that. There is actually a plain English version of WCAG as well in my useful links I can share people, but share at the end. But yeah, try and keep it simple for them. Don't get too technical with them because they just switch off. Um, Pick your battles and your moments. The first part, picking your battles, I think this is something I learned quite recently, actually, I was talking to someone in comms about this, and Akeem this morning as well, actually. Like when is something stopping it from working and meaning users can't access this information, and when is it something that's more just kind of cosmetic and making it slightly clunky? We're not going to be able to fix absolutely everything, so focus on the bits that are really broken. So like for example, I think if they've put all their information in a JPEG as a flyer, and you know that's not going to work on mobile, and you know it's got things like the dates of the festival in it, that's really important that that's fixed. But if they've just used a quote component when they should have used a plain text component, and it's pushed the text a little bit into the middle, but it's still readable, like maybe, that's less important. And picking your moments, so kind of, yeah, if you've just like, if someone's having a load of trouble fixing something and um, struggling to do something, and then you help them with that, and then at the end you're like, oh, and that's not accessible, you can't do that, then it's probably not the time to do it. Kind of pick a time when it's more positive, and when I don't know, it's hard to sort of go into how I might do that, but yeah, I think you kind of learn when it's okay to sort of say these things and when it's probably better to sort of leave it, and
I
and you
think
learn that with experience, I
it's
think, and
always
talking to
best to
people.
try and give people sort of the rules and regulations, if you want, the moment they enter the room. What I mean is that before they actually start using Drupal, before they start building up their own kind of patterns of usage, the earlier on you give them what they need and try and teach them, the right ways of doing things, the better. Because once someone's in the flow of something, it can almost be seen as a bit of an attack sometimes. If they're getting used to doing something in a certain way, and then you're coming in saying, actually, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong,
Yeah,
do this. So the
doesn't
earlier,
go down well, does it?
exactly, yeah. So we find that the earlier, the better. Try and give people as much feedback and whatever early on, especially after their first changes, just so it's they're still kind of new to things, and then more of a sponge, if you want.
Yeah, and we learned as well, but quite after we did the first few microsites as well, like we had services coming to us a lot of the time and going like, "Oh yeah, we've already written all the content," and then you get it, and it's really not up to standard, and it was, it's not very nice being told that. So it's much better if we can give them that advice beforehand about these sorts of things, and then it's not going to be so disappointing for them. They're not going to have to redo their work. Use common sense and be flexible. I think like again, it's all kind of like thinking about what's most important about the context and kind of we had one recently where with bins are changing in Sheffield, like what you can I think it's all over the country actually, what you can and can't recycle. And yeah, we always say like you shouldn't put information in images, but actually like when it comes down to something like bins and what can go in it, it might be quite helpful to have an infographic on the website that does that. That is helpful for a lot of people. So do be flexible about it. As long as that information's available somewhere else, don't just say to Mono, you can't have that image there. You just need it spelled out as HTML. Highlighting the wider benefits. I think in the training, I always make a point of telling people things about kind of well, two things really. One, like how an accessible website ranks higher in Google, and particularly with like AI as well now. Like AI can't read text. I keep coming back to text and images, don't I think it's because it's quite a particular problem sometimes that we see. Like the AI can't read the text of the images necessarily. The Google search doesn't read that. So if you're putting it there, it's being missed out by those as well. And then also talking about things like that came about as accessibility um improvements which are actually used by everyone now. So things like closed captions and how people will rely on those if they're on the bus and they don't want people to hear the YouTube video that they're trying to watch. And they might, if that YouTube video hasn't got captions on it, then they might just skip over it and not get that. We have a mantra in the training: an accessible website works for everyone, and I repeat that a few times and sort of really ram that home to people that it's not just about making it accessible and work for people who need it to. That's a big part of it, but it's also about the wider benefits of it just generally being a better website and performing better and ranking higher in Google. And this one, I don't know if they do, but I try and encourage people to watch the videos that are on the W3C site. that actually show people using assistive technologies and how the web works for them. And then I like to share successes and keep people informed on what we're doing, like updates that made things more accessible. I think that kind of encourages people to realize that it's not just on them, it's everyone who's kind of involved in that, and we're doing our bit too, and we're not just telling them what they need to do, we're also making it better and easier for them. And then finally, use the stick if needed. And that is just about the fact, like, I like to remind, we had a website recently that was picked up by the Cabinet Office. It wasn't one that was designed by us, it was one that was designed by a third party, and it was picked up by the Cabinet Office because it was failing accessibility checks. And when we went back, when the service came to us for help with that, um, and it turned out it was with an external provider. The external provider said, "Well, you didn't tell us we needed to do that. Um, we're going to charge you to fix that." So it had to get fixed at their own expense. And I think that's kind of like a, I don't like to use the stick, but if I have to, then I think that can be quite helpful, reminding people of the extra work and money that might need to be put into fixing those things at a later date. So the quiz to end. Are we all right for time, Aaron? I don't know what time we're on.
No, you know.
We're up against it a little bit, but let's do a quick quiz and then questions with a couple of questions, and then yeah, go for it. You got to show a page, haven't you?
Yeah. So this is,
This lot are very good, so they'll probably do the
yeah.
quiz.
And actually, there's not. So this is a page that I show in training as well. It's a page that I've made that's inaccessible, and there are some. And this just sort of, I think this kind of shows how you can make some errors in local gov Drupal, as I've managed to here. So I would like people to tell me how many errors they can spot on this page. How do you want to do that, Aaron? Just have people shout up.
We give everyone a minute to have a look, and you scroll up and down, and then we'll see who's counted the most errors. Then they can just read that's what they found without reading them out yet. So just count up the number of errors that you can see on the page. It's all right, Henry. Go away.
Could you see my mouse moving around here? This one might be a clue.
Can you scroll down again?
I can, when we've done this as well, I can use that quickly to show the bits that I like in Silktide if you want.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, can you share the link? Is that web page?
The link one, yeah, that's not a link. That's one.
No, sorry, the actual URL for the page.
Oh, it's behind a login, so I wouldn't be able to.
It's behind a login. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I know that would be better, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Does someone want to have a hazard a guess how many errors there are? What accessibility issues?
15.
15.
JV's going high. 15. Has anybody got higher than 15? Russ is saying 1,374. We probably don't have to list all of those.
This is Silktide here if people haven't seen it. So what you can do here is you can put on, it's similar to Sally in editorial actually. So we can quickly see the headings here. We can see that's one. They're going in the wrong order. We can see that when we look at the links, we've got a lot that say more information, and that's this. I like to show this for a screen reader when I'm doing the training, so that people can actually hear it go link more information, link more information, link more information. We've got a contrast error here.
Should we try and get some questions in? We've only got 10 minutes now. Let's
Yeah.
see if we can.
Yeah. So we had language, fonts. Elizabeth was saying fonts.
The fonts, that's not actually a font, that's text in an image.
Text in an image, okay.
Oops.
The color contrast, Sanjeev was saying color contrast. Yeah.
And here the alt text is set. as fa7754ab907.png, which is something I do see quite a lot. People just put an image on and leave the name of the image in.
So I'm going to come to questions from people. I'm just scrolling back up to earlier.
Oh, there's a lot of chat.
PDF's question we talked about. Steph, do you want to ask your question? You're having a sort of chat with Dan about the accessibility scores.
Yeah, because I always look at them and I think like it doesn't give the whole picture. So I'm intrigued to like hear how people use that percentage score because you could just easily look at it and go, oh, we're 99% more like accessible, but it's kind of like I see it as like kind of like Google Analytics. It doesn't give you the whole story. So yeah, I think they're useful, but I don't think it gives that full story. So but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's for us, it's like it's something that we can report to senior management when we're being asked about it, or you know, it's kind of like a credibility maybe that we can rely on, um, rather than just being able to say, well, we've tested it and it's accessible. And it is something that we are asked to report on. Our manager and our team will be asked to report on that to the directorate level about that sort of stuff.
Yeah. I just kind of like fear because it's like when people ask for like page views, we're like, well, that's not giving you that's
Yeah,
just you know what I mean? It's like it could be taken out of context and I like to say it is an easy thing to just point to and go, we're accessible, but it you might not be, say, but yeah,
mm.
just interested.
Have you noticed issues then if someone's saying they're getting a high score on that and then actually in reality they're not
Yeah, no, I've seen it in
accessible?
places where I'm like, I know you're not like that accessible. Like, I know you got loads of PDFs, you got loads of, it's just picking up stuff like, broken links or, it is helpful for that kind of stuff. But I think you do have to be wary about, you can satisfy a stakeholder or a service, but you also go like, there is so much work to do and maybe giving that fuller picture because it's such a broad thing, accessibility. And I don't know how it can be encapsulated in one percentage mark, really.
Yeah,
I don't think it can, to be honest. I think we just try and do our best. That's why I found the comments that people leave on web pages are some of the most important drivers for what we do, because that's the public saying, here's an issue, or you've got the price of this wrong, or this is what's incorrect. And often when we look at, we check comments every day, and it's very rarely about, oh, the color of this is incorrect, the size of this box is incorrect, there was no alt text. It's never that. It's always the information on the page. That's the problem.
Mm.
We've used
Yeah.
the Society of the Blind, Graham, as well.
yeah, we've done some user research with them.
There's a
We'll
couple of
take any
other
opportunity we can to when people do feedback stuff like that. Yeah, we'll want to meet them and talk to them about it and try and fix it. I think the other thing we always say about WCAG as well and about meeting that is, I mean, are you talking about meeting WCAG double O? Are you talking specifically about those kind of slight more silk tide scores? Because we'll say as well that like meeting double A at WCAG is really important because that's a benchmark that we know we need to aim for. And it's, we can't possibly make it fully accessible for everyone in every case. But if we have that benchmark to aim for, then we know we're doing what we can.
Can you just check some of the other raised hands? We haven't got long. Is that all right? Or
Yes. Ross, do you want to go ahead? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Ross,
Guys,
hi.
thanks so much for putting this together. It's been brilliant. And just to echo Akeem's point around user feedback and user research, it's just so powerful. That's one of the tools we use when we speak to our web authors. But one of my questions was, generally, what is the level of awareness of accessibility within Sheffield organisation or council? Because with us, it's a real mixed bag. Some people know all about it.
Yeah.
Some people, first time they're hearing about it. And that's such a challenge for us because some people they just don't know anything about it.
Yeah, and I think sometimes depending on the nature of the service, like so we did one with family and adult education, who work with a lot of speakers of other languages, and pathways to work, who do a lot of work with people with learning difficulties, and more vulnerable people who are having trouble finding work. And I think with them, it's really easy to get them to understand because they're seeing that when they're out and about, they're seeing these issues that people are having. And maybe some of the others that aren't so sort of at the sharp end of it exactly kind of they might struggle a little bit with getting that on board. And I've actually, yeah, like when we talked about the challenges and the preconceptions, like when you've had people say to you like kind of like, oh well, that's not going to affect any of our users who are looking at the website, and like that's just because they've not seen it affect anyone. So yeah, I think it is a mixed bag. I think it depends on, and that's why I think generating empathy and relating it to the real world is often so important because it does help them then get it on board and showing them how it doesn't work as well and reiterating that kind of like um, about an accessible website working better for everyone. That's why those bits are important. Making it not just about accessibility, but yeah, it's about usability then, isn't it? About making your website better.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you.
Thanks, Ross. We've got time for one more question, so I'll come to Kat. Hello, Kat.
Hi, thank you both for the presentation. Um, we have we've recently given a presentation kind of at an EDI day. So obviously the people in the room were all aware of accessibility, so it was kind of like a good start, but we want to start engaging with wider service colleagues. And I just wondered if you could share your resources that you take when you do these training workshops with service colleagues, because I'm guessing they're a bit more engaging, like the way that you've shared the icebreaker with us today, like that sort of stuff. I'd love to get some ideas from you, basically.
Yeah, so you mean like the sort of the slides that we use for
Yeah,
that training?
for the actual training slash workshops that you do with your colleagues that are not in the web team.
Yeah, if I mean I'm happy to send that to anyone who wants to have to just take bits out that might need to be that are internal, but yeah, it's fine. In fact, I think Aaron's got a copy where I've done that, haven't you?
Yes, I think I've already got it ready, and I'll send it out after. I'll check with you, Graham, if there's anything else to share. And the other activity that I really liked that Graham we didn't do today was describing an image, just using the alt text of the image, and then getting people to draw it, and then see what people actually draw. And I thought that was quite a nice illustrative example of why alt text is really important. Actually, literally painting a picture for someone.
Mm.
And then, I mean, obviously, if it was for me, my inability to draw would be a fundamental issue. But it's a nice illustrative point. I think one of the things I liked about Graham, so we're just coming to wrap up, is just showing, not telling, is as important as anything. So showing how these things work, and so the activities,
Yeah.
as much as sort of talking through things, and that really resonated with me. So we'll share everything probably on Monday. Probably won't have a chance to do it today. And there'll be the YouTube video of this as well, and a few other resources and that kind of thing. I'll probably point to something else. I think Nova did a session similar to this a year or maybe a bit more ago on how she was doing it at that point. It might have changed a bit. So I'll share a few other things. And just to say, the next meetup is in September. And it's an exciting one. It's going to be, we've got an organization called My Web Access coming along, and they're going to bring someone with a disability, and we're going to find a couple of volunteer councils to try and perform a particular journey on their website. And we'll sort of live demo that and sharing their experience of it. So a kind of live user testing, accessibility testing session. The invite for that will go out fairly soon, so we're looking for some volunteer councils who are willing to put themselves up for the benefit of everyone. I've put the link to that in the chat for now. And we're just coming up to the hour, so I'm going to say thank you very much, Graham and Akeem, for your talk and sharing your words of wisdom and your approaches. Much appreciated. Thanks everyone for coming. Stay cool. I am roasting, so I'm going to go. I'm going to go and jump in a cold bath somewhere.
I'm on the
Thank
Slack
you.
channel as well if people have got more questions or if we missed them in here. I'm just scanning through it now to see if there were any I missed, but yeah.
I'll double check as well as I go through.
Thank you.
Great stuff. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
See you again
Thanks
soon.
everyone.
Thank you.
Take
Bye.
care.
Bye.
Thanks, and
Cheers.
bye.